Hello everyone and welcome to Clarity 16.0.3 Supportability and Feature Training. I am Vib Mehrotra, and as part of this section we will be talking about the enhancements to checklist and to-dos. So as part of this release, the following things are new or enhanced. Now we have the to-do table widget available in Page Canvas. We have the ability to see investment and task specific to-dos in the single view. The ability to have the checklist now in agreements. As checklists are shared with others, there is a notification that is sent to others. The workspace has been enhanced to now decouple the to-do and task owner lookups. We have the ability to view user avatars when sharing or adding owners for to-dos. We have the ability to move checklist to investment or agreement. We also have the capability to mark a checklist as completed. And finally, we are introducing the ability to see to-dos within a smart list, either a board view or a calendar view. The reason this is important is because in 16.0.2 we introduced the checklist capability within Clarity. In this release, we are enhancing a lot of those capabilities. Also, based on customer feedback, we are adding the to-do table widget in Pages. This will allow the customers to be able to define home pages for their end users where they can see their task information, risk issue change information, and also the to-do information. The checklist is enhanced in a way where based on customer feedback, where now checklist is available in agreements as well as notifications being sent. Again, a lot of these are based on customer feedback as they started consuming the checklist capability. The My Workspace is being enhanced again based on customer feedback to provide more capability and a better way to visualize the information. In the previous releases, we had the list view to see the to-dos within a smart list, but based on customer feedback, we are now also providing board view and calendar view. So let's get started with the individual items. The first is the to-do widget in Canvas. So starting 16.0.3, we are introducing the ability to have to-do table widgets in Canvas. The to-do widget can be enabled within the Pages Blueprint Canvas module. And once it is enabled, the new widget will be then available in the canvas for the page to be configured. To add the to-do widget in the canvas, it's similar to adding the other widget, which is within the canvas view. The end user will have to click on the configure button. After configuring on the configure button, they can now see the to-do widget available. They can drag that to-do widget within their canvas to the location where they want to see it. And once done so, they can extend its view or arrange it as they want it to be displayed within that canvas view. Once the to-do widget has been added, the end user then has the capability to configure that to-do widget based on how they want to see the data within that widget. The configuration is done again similar to the other widget capability, where when the canvas is in the view state, the end user can click on the configure button, which will then open up the modal, and the end user can configure up to 10 fields. They can configure the layout of those fields, as well as they can define any filter to trim that data down. For example, if they only want to see their own to-dos, they can filter it down where the owner is themselves or the current user. And once that configuration is done, then the data is displayed within the Pages canvas view. We have now added checklist to the agreement as a module. The checklist module can be added within any agreement using the blueprint, and we have the ability to define manage shared to-dos within that checklist. This functionality is similar to how checklist functions within investments. Agreements checklist will then also be available to be viewed within my workspace, and there is a link that will be displayed underneath the checklist name where the user can click and navigate to the specific agreement. Again, similar functionality to investments. Based on customer feedback, we are now introducing a single place where they can see all the to-dos within an investment or agreements. This is in the to-do workspace, and a new tab will be available called All. In here, when the user navigates to this to-do workspace All tab, they will see every to-do listed across all investments and all agreements. They will also be able to see the checklist for those specific investment and agreements, the investment specific to-dos, the task specific to-dos, as well as risk issues and changes specific to-dos. So all of those will be listed in this All tab. Like the other tabs, there is also the capability to add visual widgets and define those widgets based on how the data needs to be reviewed. We have also updated the previously fields that were made available, which is the parent and the grandparent fields. Those fields have now been renamed and are now available, called as related to, which would be the name of the parent of that to-do, and it will be a hyperlink where the user can click on it to navigate to the specific parent. We'll have the related to ID, which would be the ID of the parent that the specific to-do belongs to. And then finally the related to type, which would be the type of the parent, such as a checklist, an investment, a project, a task, and so on. In the previous release, when to-dos were shared, there was no notification sent to the end user or the person that it was being shared with. That has now been addressed, and starting 16.0.3, as a checklist is shared with a specific user, that user will get notification in the bell icon only. The user can click on the bell icon, review the notification, and then also click on that specific notification to navigate to that specific checklist. Once they navigate to it, then they'll have the ability to copy that specific checklist if they want to do so, or they can just collaborate on that existing checklist by updating its information. Task and to-do owners have now been separated. In the past, we were using the same lookup between task owner and to-do owner. Moving forward in 16.0.3, we have separated the two, which gives us more flexibility to make changes to these lookups as needed in the future to separate the task and the to-do information. So those two have been separated. Also, based on customer feedback, we have enhanced the lookup that displays the owner information to now show the avatar of the user that are available. Now, in the checklist, whenever a checklist is shared, the user list will have the user information along with their avatar as defined in the system. Also, in the to-do owner, when the to-do is being changed or assigned, the user will have the ability to see the avatar of the listed users that could be added as the owner for a specific to-do. This makes the viewing of or selecting of a specific user more easier, because you can now look at their avatars and ensure it is the correct user that you're assigning as either the owner or the or sharing a specific checklist with. We have also now the capability to mark a checklist for completion. Once a checklist is completed, we will treat it very similar to how you would complete a to-do, which is the completed checklist will be grouped at the bottom of the checklist list, and it'll be grouped together under a section called completed. By default, the completed group will be collapsed and the user can expand to see the list of all the completed checklist. We also now have the capability to move a checklist from one investment or agreement to another. We also have the capability to remove a checklist from an existing investment or agreement. Checklists that are removed from the investment or agreement will then only be listed in the user's My Workspace and will not be tied to any specific object instance because we just removed it. Checklists not associated to an object instance will only have the option to be moved to an existing investment or agreement. So the flow to move a checklist from one investment or agreement to another is as follows: that there is a new menu option available within the checklist called Move Checklist. When selecting that, the list will then be updated to display the available object types that the user has access to view. The user can select that object type and a modal will pop up displaying the list of the specific instances for that object type. In my example on the screen, I selected project, and selecting that, I can see now the list of all the projects based on the existing view that was defined for project list. I can then select a specific project and click on the move button, and by doing so the checklist is then moved from its current investment or agreement to that specific project. We have now expanded the Smart List to display the data in two additional views, which is the board view and the calendar view. The calendar view is the first time in the modern UX where you're able to see the data in a calendar format. This is the first place in the modern UX, and we plan to use this in other parts of the application in the future. When you are in the Smart List, whatever filter criteria you have defined for that Smart List will be then used to display the data for the list view, board view, or calendar view. So all three of those views will share exactly the same filter. Each view, when you go into, will have their own option that you can use to configure to essentially see the data within that view, such as the board view. You can configure it to see it based on the owner or the status, or in the calendar you can see the data in either a month or a week. And again, we will cover those in detail later. While you're in this view, just like the list view, the users do have the option to edit the to-dos by either dragging them or by opening and editing them by itself. So let's cover in detail in regards to the board view. The layout for the board view is as on the screen. The way it'll be displayed is that once you select a specific smart view, you would have the option on top to see the data either in list, board, or calendar. In this example, we selected board. Once you select so, the data, which is the to-dos, are then displayed as columns. Each card for that will represent the to-do and will have a background color. The color, as indicated, anything that's open will not have any color. Anything that is completed will have a gray color, and anything that is blocked will have a red color. The user has the ability to collapse individual columns as they choose to do so. There is a small icon right here that the user can click on, and that will collapse the column. So if they only want to focus on a specific column, they can do so by collapsing the other columns. The user can define that the data within each column, how do they want to sort it by? And the options are sorted by date, name, or owner. The user also has the option to select which attribute should be used to display the columns. The two options that are available is status or owner. The user can see each one of these cards and they have the link to the related to object, which is the parent of that specific to-do. So each one of those have those links that the user can click on to navigate to that specific parent of that to-do. The user has the ability to edit the specific to-do by double clicking on it or using the right mouse click. Any to-do that might be selected is highlighted in yellow. It is a subtle yellow which is very similar to the yellow we use for other parts of the application. And each card will display the following information. It will display the name of the to-do, the related object instance, the due date, status, link, and the owner's avatar. Some of the interactions that you can do with the board view. So as discussed, you have the ability to collapse any column by clicking on that button. So when you click on it, you can collapse a specific column and then the screen will be rendered as followed, where the collapsed column will just have the column header displayed along with the counter of how many to-dos are inside of it. So in this example, I have 3 blocked and I've also collapsed completed and I have 11 completed. And now I can focus only on the open to-dos. I have the option to double click on a to-do, and when I do so, the to-do will then open up in a pop-up modal, and the opened up to-do can then be interacted where I can edit the name, I can complete it, change the owner, or change the date. So I can make any changes to the to-do. I also have the 3-dot menu icon to either block it or add a link to my to-do. If I want to change the status of my to-do or change the owner of my to-do, I can do so by even dragging and dropping a to-do from one column to another. In this example, I am moving my to-do from open to completed by just dragging and dropping it. And that's because my column is set to be based on status. If I change this to be by owner, then I can drag and drop the to-do from one column to another by which will then result in changing the owner of that specific to-do. You can drag and drop an individual to-do, or you can drag and drop multiple to-dos at the same time. Selecting of the multiple to-dos will be done using either the control key in control plus the click in Windows, or the command key plus click on the Apple computers. You also have the right mouse key available to you, which allows you to edit or move the to-do between columns, or you can delete the to-do from that delete the to-do itself. You can also mark a to-do for completion. Once the to-do is opened up for editing, the menu that is available that will display the information that I can add to that specific to-do, which is I can add a link, I can block it, or I can delete the to-do. The board view, as mentioned, I can change the columns to be displayed by owner. So in this example, now I'm looking at the to-dos based on the owner. If there is or are to-dos with no owner assigned to it, then they will be listed under a column called unassigned. So in this example, I have my column set up as owner, and there are 8 to-dos that do not have an owner, so they are all listed under the unassigned. At this point, if I want to assign an owner to them, I can just drag it out of the unassigned to any one of the other owner names to assign it to those specific owner. The sorting option is obviously by date, name, and owner. However, if I wanted to do manual sorting, I can also do so within that specific view itself. So I can drag and drop a to-do card within that specific column. Keep in mind that dragging and dropping for manual sorting is only while you're still viewing that specific board view. Once you navigate away or refresh your screen, the sorting will then go back to the automatic sorting. So that sorting, the manual sorting, is not saved. Now let's look at the calendar view that is available for the to-do smart list. When I go into my smart list, I can see the calendar option. I can select that, and then the to-dos are displayed in a calendar format. Any to-do that is not assigned a to-do date will be listed in a column right next to the calendar called unscheduled, and will be all listed right here. I have the option to drag and drop these to-dos from the unscheduled to a specific date, thus giving a due date for those to-dos. I have the carousel available to me where I can navigate month by month, or I can click on the date and then use the calendar widget to basically navigate directly to a specific month. I also have in the calendar widget the option to directly jump back to today's date. So there will be a link for today. We have the capability to see the data for the weekends if we want to, or if we don't assign any work on the weekends, then we can just hide the weekend. So there is a toggle option for showing or hiding the weekend dates. The range that is available is that the user can see the information either on a month view as seen on the screen, or as a week view, in which case just the current week or whatever selected week will be displayed from Monday to Friday if no weekend is selected, or Sunday to Saturday if the weekend is selected. Just like the other list view, the sort orders are the same. The user can sort it by date, name, or owner. The to-dos are then displayed within the respective date fields. As you can see, all the to-dos that are displayed in here, and the to-do will display the owner's avatar, the name, and the specific status. So this example, I have this one blocked, so I can see the blocked icon. This one is completed, so I can see the completed icon, and this one is not blocked or completed. It's still open, so there is no icon next to it. So immediately I can review the type of information that is there. If I have multiple to-dos within a specific date, then the way we render it is by adding a counter at the bottom of that date. In this example, I have 5 more to-dos that are scheduled for August 5th, but they're not displayed in my the date section because it's too many to be displayed. The counter that is going to be here, or the size of the display, is dependent based on the end user browser window size. So if I was to make my window much larger, then maybe all 5 will be displayed here. If I make my window smaller, then I would see this counter increase or reduce based on how I am changing the browser window. I can click on that number, and when doing so, the additional to-dos will pop up, so I can then see all the data right here within the same screen. So that this is a linkable counter. Let's look at some of the interactions I can do in the calendar view. So as mentioned, I have the unscheduled on the extreme left side, where I can see all the schedules that or to-dos that do not have a due date. I can expand and then drag and drop them. Double clicking on a specific to-do in the calendar view will open up that to-do in an edit mode, and I can then change any information related to that to-do. I have the option to drag and drop a to-do between dates. And by doing so, I can then change the due date of that specific to-do. So I can drag and drop between dates. When I open up a specific to-do for editing, either by double clicking or by doing a right mouse click and edit, then I get the extra menu item for that specific to-do where I can add a link, block it, or delete it. As mentioned, the counter at the bottom that is that lists out if there are additional to-dos for that specific date. Clicking on that will then open up the additional to-dos that are scheduled for that specific date itself. Once opened up, I have the capability to then either edit those additional to-dos, or I can drag and drop them from that pop-up modal to another date to reschedule or change the due date for those specific to-dos. As mentioned, I can drag the to-do from unscheduled to any specific date, and this can be done either in the month view or in the week view. So in this example right here, I am looking at my week view, and I can drag the unscheduled to-do to a specific day. In this case, I'm going to drag it to Monday of that specific week. One point to note that anything that is scheduled cannot be moved from a scheduled date to unscheduled. So any schedule item cannot be dragged into unscheduled. Each card has the right mouse click option to edit and delete. And when I do click on the counter to see the pop-up for the additional to-dos for that specific date, that pop-up window can be moved around for better viewing visibility for the user to then move it and be able to then drag those to-dos to any other date that they want. So the user does have the capability to move that pop-up window around. All right, with that, let's see the product in action. So I'm here in Clarity 16.0.3, and we are going to begin first by looking at our to-do workspace. We are going to see the new Alt tab within to-do workspace. I'm going to navigate to to-dos, and in here, as soon as I come in, you can see by default I'm landing in my Alt tab, and in here I can see all the to-dos across the different types. So I can see projects, ideas, and the none is basically all my agreement to-dos. Let's change this to view the data by related to. So this is now all the to-dos that have been defined either within the checklist. This is the checklist inside of an investment or agreement. Ideas, issues, project risk. So I can see all investment and agreement specific to-dos that are there across each one of those object instance. I can of course like expand any of these. I can click and look at the additional details for any one of these. So the functionality is the same. As you can see, I have widgets that I can use to visualize my to-dos. I can see how many would be there based on the different parent type, how many are blocked, how many are completed. I can apply any filter criteria to see anything specific to trim down the information as I'd want to see. I can see in this example that there are 3 to-dos that are blocked, and I can easily jump those because I have a saved filter to only show me the blocked, and these are the 3 blocked ones that are there, 2 in the web application project and 1 in the incident response. So easily I can see. And then what are those 2 types? I can see that there is 1 checklist that is blocked, which is in the investment response, and then the 2 in the risk that are blocked. So a much faster and easier way to visualize and see my data across all investments and all agreements. All right, next let's look at our blueprint for where I can now include the to-do table widgets within the pages. To do that, I'm going to first go into the MonUX administration. Within the administration, I'm going to see the blueprint for my page, and in this case I'm going to see it for the personal page. And once doing so, you can see that I have a canvas called Personal Dashboard. In that canvas, I have to scroll down at the bottom, and the options that are available to me has to do listed as one of the options. Of course, I can drag and drop these as I choose to do so to bring to do up, but by default, when you come in here the first time, to do will be listed at the bottom of the list. So you have to scroll down to see that table. Once done, I can just publish this, and let's go see this in action. I'm going to go into my pages. I'm going to go to my personal pages where that specific blueprint is assigned. I am in that personal dashboard itself with my widgets. If I configure it, I can see now I have the to-do widget, the to-do table widget available to me to easily drag and drop anywhere that I want. I'm going to not do that in this one, but I'm going to go to my predefined view, which is for work. So in this case, I am in my view. I have predefined my to-do. I can drag another one if I want to do so. And once I've done, I can arrange it. And I can then configure any information. So by default, we only get these 3 columns, but I can configure it, and I'm not going to spend time trying to configure it. I'll show you a pre-configured one, and configuring a widget is again an existing functionality. I can click on the configure button, and once I do so, I will get the option in a pop-up modal where I can see all the columns that are available that I can include. I can pick up to 10 columns. I can apply a filter where in this case I have said only show me my to-dos because I'm the one who's logged in, and I have arranged the 10 columns that I want to see in the order that I want to see the data. And then those are available right here. So now to-dos are available to me along with the to-do related information, whether it's the task or investments and so on. All right, next we're going to go back to the administration for modern UX, and we're going to see that now we have a checklist available in agreements. To do that, let's go back to the administration blueprints, and I'm going to go to my agreement blueprint. And you can see I have already added checklist as a module for my agreement blueprint. Again, existing functionality where the checklist will be available as a module to be drag and dropped. You can drag it anywhere. By default, no blueprint will have the checklist added. For demo purpose, I added it manually prior to showing this demo to you. So you can easily drag and drop this checklist to your blueprint. Once done so, let's go ahead and publish this, and let's look at this in action. So I'm going to go into agreements, and I'm going to go into my compliance review agreement that has been created between multiple projects, and you can see I have the checklist module listed right there. I can click on that, and I can see now those checklists are available for me to review and work with. Just like any other existing checklist functionality, I can create a new one, or I can mark any one of these completed. So I see that this was supposed to be completed yesterday. I got the information it is. I can just click on completed, and it gets the to-do gets moved in. I can create a new one right away, which is by clicking on the new button, and let's just create one called review report. I can easily define the to-dos within here. So let's quickly define some of these. As you can see, I can create multiple just by clicking on the enter button. Again, this is existing functionality. All right, so I've created a few. And the reason I did that is because For each one of these, I can now assign an owner. And when I do so, I want to show that you can see that the owner now have their avatars displayed right next to it. So this is the change we talked about, where assigning an owner to a to-do will have their the user's avatar displayed, which makes it easier for selection. So I'm going to share this with Cheryl Amos. Sorry, I'm going to make Cheryl Amos as the owner for this one. I can make Joyce the owner for another one, and so on. I can continue to do that, and you can see easily by looking at the avatars, I can pick which one I want to assign to. Anybody that does not have an avatar will then just have the standard display. Once selected, the avatars for each one of those owners will be displayed, and I can assign the dates and so on. But the next thing I want to show is that once I have created the to-do or the checklist with the to-dos, I can now share this checklist. And to do that, I can click on the share button, and let's share this with Cheryl Amos. I can easily do that, which is now I can see the name, and if I go down, I can see Dana Lewis. I'm going to share it with Cheryl Amos and Dana Lewis. Again, their avatars are displayed in the share list. They've been added as collaborators for my checklist, and once done so, I can just click on done. At this point, they both would have gotten a notification in their bell icon that this specific checklist has been shared with them. To review that, let's go ahead and log out, and let's log in as Dana Lewis. So when I log in, I'm obviously landing into my default page, but the first thing I observe is the notification icon that there is a number 1. That means there is some new notification for me. When I click on that, I see that I have shared, or Vib has shared in this example, the checklist review report was shared by you by Vib Mehrotra. So that notification icon is available within the bell icon telling me that this is shared. I can click on that, and clicking on that specific link takes me to my workspace where I can see that specific checklist. Once in here, I have the option to again interact, populate maybe some of the due dates that I think would be right, or I can make a copy of this specific checklist. So by doing so, I can then have my own checklist. So let's just go ahead and make a copy of this checklist, and I'm going to add my name at the start, which is Dana Review Report. Since I've made the copy of this checklist, and this checklist was in that same specific agreement, the copy is also made within that same agreement with the same information. I can at this point again make some more changes to my checklist, and of course I am the owner for that checklist. That's why I have now additional options where I can move this to others, or I can just keep it right here. So but for the flow right now, let's continue with where as Dana, I'm going to mark this specific checklist as complete. So this is the new functionality where I can mark a checklist for complete. When I click on that, you can see that the Dana's review report checklist is moved from this checklist to this new completed area. So this checklist, any checklist that is completed are been moved to the area below. I can navigate to the agreement, and the same behavior is rendered right here where I can see all the other checklist, but Dana's review report that was completed is under the completed section. I can at this point If I want to just go ahead and delete this because I don't want to use this specific checklist, so I can do that by just going in and selecting the delete menu option. Confirm, and yes, I'm good to delete that. Next, as Dana, I am going to navigate and I'm going to just navigate back to all the checklist information, and obviously since I deleted it I could not navigate back, but I can then easily see the other ones. Alright, at this point let's go ahead and log out and let's log back in as myself. And after landing into my home page, I am going to go into my checklist, and I can see the list of all the checklists that I have. And I have just gotten a request from my project, which is the compliance audit security, that because this is a compliance management project, if there is any compliance issue, we need to have a way to handle those incidents. So we need an incident management checklist. I could either come into this project and just create a new checklist and define all of those incident management, but I know that that type of checklist is already pre-created in another project. And I can verify that by going into my workspace, and I see that there is the incident response team has created a checklist that could be used. So this is a checklist that is predefined, that has everything that I want. Of course, they are already using this checklist, so some certain items are blocked, certain items completed, but that's okay. What I can do is I can make a copy of this checklist because I want to use this checklist in my new project, which is the compliance audit security project. So I'm going to first go ahead and make a copy of this checklist. I'm going to call this as Compliance Incidents Response Guide. As I make a copy of that checklist, you can see that that checklist is copied within the same project, and all the to-dos that were either blocked or completed are now reset. The dates are maintained, so I can change the dates to be the new dates that I want. So I'm just going to mark this as August 1st. My dates, and I can populate this for others. I can change the owners if I want to do so. But as I do that, obviously once I've cleaned up and set up everything that I need to take this out of that specific project. So I can do that by saying remove the checklist from the project. Now this checklist is moved out of that project, and you can see the link is removed. I can continue to edit this and add additional values and continue to work on it. Once I've done so, I can now move this to my new project, which is the compliance audit security. Of course, this is for the demo purpose. I wanted to show both, which is take it out of a current project and then move it to an existing project. The end user could have done a direct move from one project to another, and that would have also worked. So I'm going to move this to a project. The minute I select that, it gives me a list of the different object types I have access to. I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to pick project. It gives me the list of projects that are available that I have the option to view or move this project to. I'm going to pick my compliance audit security one and then click on the move button. When I do that, I'm still within my checklist or my workspace, but you can see that the link for the project is now populated for my compliance incident, and I can now navigate to it, and by navigating there I can see the two checklists that are available. This was the incident response, and then the other one that pre-existed. Alright, Next, I am going to go back to my checklist, and let's look at the new views that are available for my smart list. To see those, I'm going to go into my ad hoc work. This is the list of all the freestanding to-dos that have been defined in the freestanding checklist. When I come in here, the first thing I'm going to look at is actually the board view. So that's the option right here on top that I can pick from, which is my board view itself. Once in here, I can see by default it is showing me the columns as the owners that have been assigned for each one of the to-dos, and any to-do that do not have an owner is listed under the unassigned section. So it's all available to me right here. You can see that the data as displayed is the name of the to-do, the parent link, the avatar for the owner, and then the due date. Anything that is completed have the gray on top, and anything that is open do not have any color. Anything that would be blocked would have the red bar on top. I can collapse any, so I know that there are quite a few that are unassigned, but at this point I don't want to look at those. I can collapse, and I only want to look at Joyce and Art Kingsley. So I've collapsed the other ones. You can see as I've collapsed, the columns are kind of narrowed down. It's still available where I can see their names and how many to-dos are there within each one. I have I can collapse on either side of the column. As you can see, I've done so. I can see that Art has one to-do that is blocked because he has a red icon, and I can also look at the block reason right here at the bottom of the card itself. In this case, if I want to move or reassign, so because Art has this block, maybe I can reassign this to Arun and he can get the approver taken care of. So to do that is as simple as me just selecting that specific card, dragging it to the next whichever column I want to choose to do so. I can drag it to Joyce if I want, or I can drag it to Arun. I can do that, and you can see that the owner avatar, or in this case the icon has changed, and it is now listed under Arun. I can unblock it by double clicking on it and then saying unblocked. So double clicking or a right mouse click and edit would do the same. I can also do the right mouse click and I can move to a column. So I could have done this if there were quite a few users or columns in here where I cannot just keep dragging or bring them all together. I can do a right mouse click and I can then easily scroll and pick whichever one that I want to move it to. So it's a much easier way for me to then move if there are users or columns that are far apart from each other. And of course I can edit, mark anything for complete, or delete if I want to do so. I can also change or view this columns by status, and now I can see all the blocked, open, and completed. I can collapse the block one and just look at or focus only on the open ones, and I can look at based on either the due date, or I can look at based on the owner to see where everybody's work is. Alright, next let's look at the same by the calendar view. And by clicking on the calendar view, I can see the to-dos plotted based on the respective date when they are due. I have the carousel to see the different month, so I can go to August if I want to do so, or I can click on the date itself, and then the calendar widget pops up where I can easily jump to any specific month, or I can just click on today and it'll take me to today's month. For visual reference, the today's date is always highlighted, so I can see the date where I am at the moment. I can see the to-dos listed under each date where I can see the status, the avatar for the owner, the name of that specific to-do itself. I have the column on the left side which has the unscheduled to-dos, which so I can see there are quite a few that do not have a to-do assigned to it, and I can easily drag any one of them to a specific. So I can say this specific one should be due by tomorrow. I can drag and drop it. Once I do so, it just moves from unscheduled to a specific scheduled date. If I wanted to make more changes to it, I can double click on it and it'll open up the modal, and I can then either change the owner, if I can change the date, change the name, or I have the extra menu to add a link, block it, or even delete it. So I have those options right here. As you can see, I'm going to collapse that. As you can see, for August 5th, I have quite a few to-dos that are due on that day. There are 2 listed right here, but there is 7 more. So that means there are a total of 9 to-dos for this specific date. I can click on the number, the plus 7 more, which will then open up the remaining 7 that are also due for the same date. This window, I can move it around for better viewing capability. So because it was covering July 29th, and maybe I wanted to move any one of these to July 29th, so I can move this pop-up window to a date, and then I can take any one of these from here. I can drag it and drop it into the specific date that I want to move it to. So now you can see it is moved, the review report is moved to July 29th and the counter went down to 6. Right? I can open that up again. Any one of these, if I wanted to edit, I can double click on that, and you can see then it goes into an edit mode where I can then again change the same information to change the date, the owner, or mark anything complete. Or I can just close those. All right. With that, we've come to the end of our demo. That concludes our section. Thank you, everyone.